Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of my podcast. The universe is my sugar daddy. I am so excited, and a little, I am a little apprehensive of this episode because when I tapped in, and I really thought about what would be the most aligned content to share on the very first episode of my podcast. The information that came through was honestly a little surprising. And this episode is going to be all about me, my story, who I am, my journey to be the person, the woman, and the mother that I am sitting in this chair today. And if you have found me through Instagram or Facebook, maybe even YouTube, I don't share that a lot. I have a vast story. I have had an immense journey so quickly in life, and so many people have as well. And it's not something that I talk about very often. So if you're new into my world, you're absolutely new into my podcast because this is the first episode. I want to say hi, welcome, thank you. My name is Mason Smith. At this time, I am an energetic business coach and wealth embodiment coach, and I guide the most powerful women into their sovereignty, into their power, and allow them to remember who they truly are and therefore create massive amounts of wealth, massive amounts of impact, and just feel like, lit up by life again. And I'm so excited to bring in a new flavor into my business. That's this podcast. It's so crazy. A Facebook group and a YouTube channel. So thank you. Thank you for being here. So if you do follow me on who knows what platform, right? You'll see me talk about energy a lot. You'll see me talk about alignment. You'll see me talk about wealth and impact and income and all of these things. And I love talking about money, and I love talking about the empowerment and the embodiment piece behind all of that good stuff, right? But again, I don't share at this time of my business. I've been doing this type of work for 8 years, and I just don't share a lot about myself. And so I wanted to start off this podcast, The Universe is My Sugar Daddy, in a way so that you can feel like you know me, that you can connect in to who I am on a really deep level, and maybe it'll inspire you. Maybe you'll find congruencies in my story and your story, and maybe it will be the message that you needed today. That's definitely one of my top intentions coming into this space. So where to begin? My life I want to say first off, I'm extremely blessed. I have a very supportive family. I have beautiful relationships all around me, and I feel like I have been very lucky in life. And I just want to share with you some of the pivotal moments in my life that led me to this space where I am leading these beautiful and powerful women into this space, and the story of what I needed to do and the obstacles that I needed to overcome, and the karma and the dharma and all of the good stuff that, is interwoven into that space. And so I think the biggest thing and the first thing that pops into my head as I tap into this experience with you, this co-creation, is that my whole life, especially in my childhood, I was extremely sensitive, extremely intuitive, and highly psychic. And that was very uncomfortable for me. Because I didn't feel like, in retrospect, I didn't feel like I knew how to control it, and I didn't have the tools that I needed to be able to bring that in really confidently. I'm so blessed with the mother that I have. My mom has accepted me and really laid out such a beautiful and strong foundation for these gifts. But regardless of that, a big part of this experience of coming into yourself and accepting who you really are and owning these gifts is there's this level of uncertainty and there's a level of confidence and it's a soul remembrance and it's an embodiment practice. And so for me in the 3D and the physical, that looked like really being able to tap into the spirit world and to be able to see things beyond the veil and just to know these deep things, like just intuitively know certain things, right? And my mom 100% accepted me and didn't turn off those gifts in any way, which is, through coaching and taking so many clients over the last 8 years, I've recognized that so many of our woundings and our psychic abilities and our spiritual gifts are turned off by our parents because our parents don't know what to do with them, right? And so I am so blessed to say that my mom was there for me to the point that I didn't know that being able to see beyond the veil and to be able to see these things and talk and just do these things was like not normal. And so I remember so vividly in the fourth grade, I was on like AOL Instant Messenger with one of my best friends, and she asked me about it because I had told her about how I speak to spirits and this and that. And I just and I said it so nonchalantly, right? Like literally no care in the world, no idea that it wouldn't be perceived correctly or, anything along those lines. And so I I just said that, and then, I'm on an AIM and she's like asking me these questions, and in my experience, I felt really scared. I felt like she was judging me. If she watches this, she'll probably be like, "What?" Like, it's such a big part of my story and she probably doesn't even remember it, but I'll never forget the moment. Like I was in my parents' like office using the computer. I still remember what I was wearing. I remember the chair. I remember that. And I remember this feeling of like heat, of like shame and guilt and just like embarrassment, I guess would be the best word for it. And I was just like, nope. Nope, 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 nope. And she was just asking, like, can you really do that? Right. And she was probably just curious, like in retrospect. But I was just, like, so embarrassed. I wasn't confident. I was just so taken back. And in that moment, I was like, "I'm never doing this again." I was 4th grade. You're, like, what, 8 or 9 years old, right? And from that moment on, I refused to do anything along those lines. I used to carry stones. I had almost not like mentors, but women in my life through my mother who helped nurture my gifts and, just allow myself to be who I was and all of these things. And I was like, nope, completely turned that off. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to know that part of myself. It was scary. It was embarrassing. It was weird. I was not about it. And I always will say that from that moment until even right now in my life has been a journey of getting back to that innocence, to get back into that space of where I trust my intuition to such a degree, right? And it's been a journey to get there. And so moving on, I feel like physically my life, as I shut down that really God-given gift of flexibility and being able to see and communicate beyond the veil. The minute I did that, what happened is by the 5th grade, and I think that happened in like 4th grade, by the 5th grade, I was getting really intense headaches. They were first like sinus headaches, and then they turned into these like migraines. And my father and my brother also get migraines, but they're, like definitely in the prefrontal cortex of my brain. I actually lose my sight. So I get auric migraines, migraine with aura. And now, as in a retrospect, hindsight, situation, I can definitely see that the minute that I turned off those intuitive gifts, that energy wasn't able to circulate through my body and through my system. And yes, it is genetic, but I also think there's a tendency for that to manifest in certain ways on the physical, migraines. And it definitely was in like the third eye brow chakra area. And I suffered from these chronic auric migraines for years. In middle school, I think it was getting to the point that we were thinking about like maybe I need to be homeschooled because you really can't go to school if you can't see, if you're in this amount of pain. And so that was like kind of part of the conversation, right? And so that was a really big thing for me growing up, was these debilitating migraines. And I was just a really shy girl. I didn't talk until I was 3. And again, my mother and probably my dad was a very strong advocate for allowing me to be okay and not be medicated. And, when I started talking when I was 3, I talked with like in full sentences. It was all in my head. I just didn't like express myself. And another big thing for me was like this crazy bouts of sleepwalking and just like doing these things. So crazy. And so, I was always highly gifted, always different, always doing my thing my way. And the big pivotal moment for me was in 8th grade when my parents got divorced. And it was one of those situations where I had no idea. I feel like I was living like the perfect life before that. It wasn't I wasn't in a dangerous situation anyway. My parents never fought in front of us. They never did anything like that. So when I went to Target one day with my mom and she told me in the car, like it was a really earth shattering. It was really disorienting because I didn't know that was going on. And I think that was a blow to like my intuition again of like, how did I not know this was coming? And, when you're in 8th grade, you're, 14 years old, like you're starting to change hormonally. Like personally, for me, middle school was like a terrible time. And so it was a really difficult time to be going through that in my own physical body. And then like, my parents divorcing. And at that time, like again, all of these things in retrospect aren't these big things. I can really see what was going on energetically between my mom and my dad. I admire both of them for how they stood in that, and I'm grateful that they both spoke their truth and they're happy now and all of these things. But when you're 14, it's like devastating and it's just like this whole big thing, right? And so I feel like that also it changed my life in so many ways. I kind of became a little bit more of an adult. Like I had to take care of myself in a different way, and I had to learn how to hold myself, and my emotional capacity and intelligence completely changed because I had to kind of self-soothe myself, and I had to have more boundaries and learn what it's like to be by myself, and not necessarily like be by myself. Like I was always with my mom or my dad, but I had to learn to be different, right? Because for so long my life was one way, and so that was like one of those moments that like, okay, things are changing, right? It was a big change in my life. And yeah, I feel like that was a pivotal moment to come back into myself a little bit and to have a little bit more independence. And so as that journey, propels you forward, you go into high school and you do all these things. And then when I was 17 years old, I do want to say, let me back up because I do feel like this is important, is that when I was going through all of these migraines and there's the talk of like, is she going to be able to go to school? Like, there's not a lot of medications for migraines. And I never was inclined to take medication anyways. And so my grandma, who still alive to this day, is one of my most brilliant companions, one of my biggest mentors. She was so ahead of her time, right? She was reading You Can Heal Your Life in the 80s. She was a woman, way before that was a thing. She was leading big groups of employees as a manager in a big company. She was killing the game before women were allowed to kill the game, right? So I respect her on such a level and she's completely changed my life. I feel like I have a lot of similarities with my grandmother. And so when I was going through this big experience of these migraines and all of these things, my grandma was doing some energy medicine modalities called body talk, and she was tapping my head and she was doing all these things, and she got me or my mom, I'm not sure, some sessions with a practitioner in Portland, and that was the biggest thing to stopping these migraines. And so that was really eye-opening for me at I think probably it was 11 to 15. And then in those body talk sessions that we would go to, I would work through my parents' divorce and anger and resentment and control and change and all of these themes in my body that I wasn't releasing, right? And I didn't have the tools to at the time. And so body talk became a very pivotal experience for me. And so I turned 17. I graduated high school when I was 17. I'm a Virgo, deep in the August. And so I graduated when I was 17. So I was really young for my grade. And when I was 17 years old, I was like, I am going to do body talk because it saved my life. My brain is so much better because of it. I feel so much more light and free with my relationship with my mom and with my dad, and it was just it was important for me, right? It really changed the course of my life. And so I thought, why wouldn't I do that? So I was 17. It was August, September, October, November, and I looked on Body Talk, the website, and I signed up for one in Portland that was in January or February. And I had to wait because I had to be 18. And so I waited because, you graduate in June. I turned 18 in August. And then in January, I did my first body talk class. And I was the youngest in the class, and no one could believe that I was doing it. I was surrounded by 40, 50, 6-year-old women. And I'm like, what am I doing? But I knew I needed to do it. And I met one of my teachers, Dr. Laura Sube. And it was life-changing. And I remember sitting there, though, one, what am I doing? And two, is this even real, right? Is this energy work real? I was very skeptical. My favorite classes in high school were anatomy and physiology, zoology, biology. I was a science nerd, and the body talk system is very deeply rooted in science. And so I was feeling that pull, but there was a part of me that was skeptical. There's a part of me that's I don't know about this stuff, you guys. I was really good at it, but I was just I don't know, kind of calling bullshit in the back of the class. And turns out that I met at that class one of my future business partners in passing, and we barely both remember meeting each other there, but it was our paths crossed the first time in that body talk class, and then we met probably 4 or 5 years later and started a business together. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it was a very divine moment of passing, and then but we both weren't ready for what we wanted to create in the ethers, right? So I take the body talk class, and you had to take 2 to certify. It's this whole system. So I take it, I think about it, and I pretend that I'm going to do it. And then the textbook goes into my closet, downstairs basement closet. And I don't know where it is. And it was a part of me that wasn't ready to do that work, because you have to do deep work to be able to hold that type of energy, to own that, to be seen, an entrepreneur, to say that I believe in this publicly, it's just a big deal. I was 18 and I was just whatever. At that time, me and my best friend, we're just traveling. We're enjoying each other. We're traveling to Peru. We're living in Peru. We're just doing our thing, and also working at Red Robin. So I was a server. At that time, I was just making, in my opinion, in my perspective at the time, a lot of money and tips. And so basically, I was living a life where I would go to work, make a lot of money, save it for my next plane ticket, right? And that's all I was doing. My whole mindset was like, when am I going to buy my next plane ticket, right? And it was fun. Me and my best friend worked at the same Red Robin. We had a house with our other best friend, and I felt like I was living the dream, right? And the whole time denying myself of my gifts, right? Denying myself of what I really wanted to do because I wasn't at a time like in my body, I wasn't there yet. And so I I deeply believe that we create experiences to pop us out, to like try to get us back into alignment as we're learning all of these things, in the journey of life. And so, man, I'm 19 years old and I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm having a lot of fun. And right before, when I was 18, I went through like a big breakup of like a relationship of a year. And then, so I'm kind of drinking. I'm starting to drink a little bit, starting to have fun, really enjoying myself again. I'm not even 21 years old, but I'm just like, all my friends are, all the servers. And so we're just partying. And I have my own house with my best friends. We were having parties on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, getting still drunk, going to work. Like that was like my life. And that's what I was doing. And in a in a situation that I put myself in, I was sexually abused, um, and it destroyed me. It completely and utterly destroyed my spirit, my connection to my body, um, with life, with with God, with the universe, the cosmos, source energy. I just didn't get it. I didn't get it, and I was not okay. And there's something that happens to a woman when she is raped, right? There's something that happens on a soul level, something that's taken from you. And I was 19 years old and I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't do what I needed to do to work through the trauma. And so I drank and I just kept drinking and I kept drinking and I have vivid memories of like I wasn't in relationships and I wasn't emotionally available, and I just had these moments of like these memories of just like waking up in bed, just crying, and someone's next to me, like, please just let me help you, like, tell me what's wrong. And I'm like, I can't tell you. And then I like black out again, right? Like, I was so not okay, and I was so unwilling and so unable to do the work that I need to do to be able to get through this, right? And this went on for a long time until I met the father to Indigo. And he was patient and he was kind and he was soft and he was gentle and he allowed me to be that, right? And he allowed me to be safe in that. And so that was another pivotal moment, was meeting Indigo's father and being safe with the masculine and just being there. But no one can heal you, right? No one can heal you until you're ready to be healed. And I was not ready to be healed. And I was still traveling and drinking and doing all these things. And we end up going to Peru, and me and my best friend, and we go to Peru, and get I experience a near death experience. It was crazy. We're in Cusco, Peru. I get salmonella. I had not been taking care of my body for months and months and months. And it was the moment that I feel like God came down and was like, hey, we got to change. You are so out of alignment, right? And when I say I'm out of alignment, I understand that I was learning so much, but there's like a part of me that came here for massive impact. And what I was doing was not that, right? Like I wasn't being that. And I truly believe that I manifested this experience of nearly dying in a Peruvian bathroom, a ambulance taking me to a third world country hospital with my best friend who undoubtedly saved my life that night. And was, I remember getting the IV that probably also saved my life, and the doctor putting it into my vein, and it was probably like 5 times the size of a normal US needle. And I remember thinking I'm basically unconscious and looking at this happening and wondering, I wonder if that needle is new, right? The hospital I was in was a private Catholic hospital because my family in Peru aligned that for me. But in my world, in the US, it looked like a 80s horror film hospital, right? And it was the best that I could have at that time, but I remember being really scared and unconscious during the ambulance ride, and being so violently sick in the hotel room before that, just massively throwing up. And I had a phobia of throwing up, and I hadn't thrown up since like 4th grade. And so when my best friend saw me throwing up, she's like, Mason's dying. I've never seen Mason throw up in like the 7 years of our friendship and living together. Like, Mason's literally gonna die. And I remember just like all parts of my body shutting down and just me simply not caring anymore. And being so just gone. My body just felt like it was literally deteriorating. And I'm on the bed, and I find a towel that I had taken a shower with like the day before, and so it was still kind of wet, and I could smell like the shampoo. And I put it around my face because it smelled so good. Because I felt like everything smelled bad, and I smelled bad, and I was dying. And I finally was able to fall asleep, and I opened my eyes, and there's a doctor standing in front of me in my hotel room with like a doctor bag, like like what my daughter has, like a pretend doctor bag. And he made me get into the ambulance, but there's no elevator, so I had to climb down like 4 flights of stairs. Like, the whole story is craziness. But the moral of the story is that I nearly died from avoiding the trauma in my body, ignoring my gifts, ignoring my passions, ignoring the call of my inner being and my higher self. And I had to be put into such a space of duality, of a space of, what the fuck are you doing, Mason? Like, you gotta like wake up, one of those moments. And it was wild. It was a wild, wild place to be in. And it did wake me up. And what woke me up the most was that, I barely could I was in Cusco, Peru, and I needed to get to Piura, Peru, which is where my mom's nonprofit, Casa Sana, is, and my family, and where I live in Peru. And we're kind of just having fun and partying in Cusco, there's a whole nightlife scene there. And I could barely get on the airplane, and my best friend was just literally saving my life. And I couldn't eat for 2 weeks, and I didn't go to the bathroom for like a week. Like, seriously, I was just dead on the inside, my insides. And they gave me antibiotics that killed the salmonella, but I later learned that this type of antibiotic is actually illegal in the United States. I do think it did save my life because of my body was so sick at that time, especially from the months of abuse beforehand. And it totally took away my stomach lining. And so, but what woke me up the most from that near-death experience and all of the craziness of that story is that I hired, or my mom hired, or my grandma hired, I don't know, I was dying, this body talk session from the same person in Portland that I used to go to when I was 15 years old, maybe even 11 years old. And that's how I got out of the hospital, was a body talk remote session. And I'm sitting there in my healing, and I'm laying in the bed, and I can't get out of the bed. I literally don't have the energy, the strength, the willpower to get out of bed. I'm sitting there and thinking, one of the main reasons, and I'm not discrediting the medicine, I'm not discrediting the doctors, my family, who is, my best friend is clumped into my family, not discrediting all of the behind the scenes in the medical system and anything like that. But one of the major players in my recovery was a remote energetic session from across the world. And I'm sitting there in my healing bed, dying still 2 weeks later. And I'm like, I'm certified, or I'm working towards my certification, right? I've taken the first class and I practiced in that exact same healing modality. And I'm not using it. I'm not using my gifts, and I'm not doing any of that. Like, what am I doing with my life, right? And I had to go to those depths. I had to go to that space of like dying, near-death experience, to be able to recognize how powerful energy work and intention in the multidimensional beingness of us and our vast energy and vast dreams. And oh my gosh, it's just like I had to go there to wake up to the fact that I was asleep. I was asleep to myself. I was asleep, and I was not helping anyone, right? And that was the part that hurt me so bad, is that I realized that there were people that I was deliberately not helping. I was not helping them by not owning who I was, and I wasn't being the person I could be. And that just changed my life. And I came home and I stopped drinking. I still don't drink. And I did the work. I did the inner work, and I certified, and I got pregnant and I had the most beautiful daughter, and I certified I think 6 months after she was born. And I went all in on myself. I interviewed to work at a healing center, a local healing center. Before I was certified, the first day of my work, I had clients at 10, and I certified with 98% on my written and 99% on my practical an hour before my first client, right? Totally went in on myself, and I went all the way, and I had to see my life for what it was before and after that, right? I needed to have that contrast to get the clarity of what I was here to do. And that, it started with being sexually abused and not doing the work, and not going through it, not doing the deep work that I needed to overcome that, and to clear that, and to integrate the delicious and beautiful things that came from that, the gems and the wisdom and all these and very important things that came from that. I couldn't do that. And so I had to go through such a crazy experience to be able to understand why it was so important for me to step into my power, and to lead myself, and to bet on myself, and to invest in myself, and to act before it made any logical sense, and just to go for it, right? And that is what I did. And I am forever grateful for those experiences in my life, because they are a big reason of my ability to sit here in this capacity, to share this story, to be the person I am, to be the mother that I am, and to share myself to my audience and to my clients and to the world. And I will be very frank and transparent in the way that it wasn't fun in the present moment when that was present, right? But now that it's integrated and I've worked through it, I'm very, very proud of myself. I'm very grateful for my support system and the people that believed in me before I even knew I had anything to give the world. And life goes on, and those are the two big things in my life, but there's so many other things of, leaving a really beautiful relationship that I just knew on an inner level, a higher self level, that I needed to leave to be able to grow into the woman that I really desired to be. And, leaving that was, again, or one of the harder things in my life. And becoming a single mom and a business owner. And I do want to say that when I was 18, this just popped in, so let me say this. When I was 18, I felt like I was trying to get to my mission and trying to help people because I was wrapping crystals into jewelry. And I was trying so hard, and I bet on myself in certain ways in that way, but my spiritual self was dying to get out, and it was like the safe way for me to do that, right? And so I created Sacred Crystal Company, which is, it's still an active company. And Indigo, my daughter's father, runs it, owns it now. He helped me build it into what it is today, and we still co-create on some levels, but that's definitely his business. And it was beautiful to see him be able to express himself and be seen in his magic in that way as well. And there was just parts of me, and the reason I'm bringing that up is there was parts of me that were trying to come through, even in those dark days, those times in my life, right? Like there was parts of me that were trying, but I wasn't ready and brave enough to be like, yeah, I'm really talented, like, and I can move energy and I can heal people and I can do these things, right? And the crystal wrapping and the jewelry was a part of me trying to express into a more safe avenue. Like jewelry is so much easier to understand than, you know, energy healing and wealth coaching and energetic business. It's craziness, the things that I do. And so, I embarked on this journey of being a single mom and being an entrepreneur and letting go of my first business and navigating how to consciously co-parent and consciously decouple. And man, like the parts of me that had to grow into that, and the parts of me that had to be seen, and the parts of me that needed to feel safe and secure within myself, and just to be able to lean on people and trust new people, and to go through experiences of my life where, holy moly, it's like, why am I doing this? This is hard. Like, do I need to do this? And my inner self, my higher being, my connection to source energy knew, but my human was like, oh, this is so hard. So hard to create and be in this new experience, and a single mom, and she's only 18 months old. And it's like, okay, like we got this, and I'm incredibly blessed to co-parent with a man of such beautiful embodiment of masculine energy and a wonderful father. But being alone, and which was my choice, and which also kind of made it harder, right? Like I did this to myself and I knew what I was doing, and just coming into a space of like ownership and leadership and just allowing myself to grow from that space, right? And this whole time I'm trying to navigate how to be an energy healer and what I want to do. And I was certifying like mad, getting this certification and that certification while juggling all of these different things and still healing my gut, and trying to trying to be a good mom and trying to make money and support myself and do all of these things. Is a wild time. I was deeply, deeply not valuing myself. I was undercharging for my work. I was booked out, but my rates were so low. I was so burnt out. And it came to this pivotal moment for me. And I was like, I am tired of being fucking broke. I am so tired of having like $1,500 in my bank account, and I'm tired of just paying rent, and after rent and groceries having a couple $100s and not having the freedom. And I'm like, yeah, I'm who I am, and I'm self-employed, but I'm not free. I don't feel free. My freedom is dependent on this thing outside of myself, and I didn't like that. And so I decided to change. I decided to do the work behind the scenes, and I would wake up at 5 with my partner and I would just do all of these like mindset, money, energetic things. And I was clearing all this energy. And I just was finally like, I'm done. Like, I want to make impact. I want to make money. And I'm not doing that in the capacity of which I desire. And it was months and months and months of behind the scenes work of just like worthiness and trust issues and not believing in myself, not believing in who I was, not believing in what I had to share, and not owning myself to a certain capacity. And I'll never forget one of my business partners. There's so many stories that I'm not sharing on this podcast, but I'm just trying to start this by sharing some of the things I've never shared before. And I had my own business, and then the woman that I met at Body Talk, 4 or 5 years prior, we built a business together, and then we added more healing practitioners, and it was going to be this huge, big collaborative online healing space. And I'll never forget when one of my business partners made $9,000, and I was like, $9,000 would change my life forever. And I meant that. I remember texting my mom. I remember being like, what I would do for $9,000 and what that would look like for my life and for my family. And oh my God, it just expanded me to such a level. And I could not believe it. And then my other business partner made a $10,000 sale. And I'm like, oh my God. And then my next one made $15,000. And I was like, what is happening? I was like, and so I'm doing all this work and allowing it to come in and all these things. And I was the last one. And I was like, am I going to make it? And I ended up making a $21,000 coaching sale, like a 3-month bundle with all of these things. And my life changed forever because I recognized that I was an energetic match to the frequency and the desire of which I wanted to create. And that was massive impact with powerful women, right? And I was like, life gets to feel like this, and I get to invest in myself, and I get to do all of these things. And I'm telling you, there's 5 a.m. wake-up calls, and there is work, and there is tears, and there is all of these things. And it took, me investing in a money coach and a money online course that was $397, and I had $400 in my bank account, but I was willing and dedicated because I did not want to live the life that I was living anymore. And I just kept doing the energetic work, the parts of me that just weren't in alignment with a richer life, right? A wealthier life on all levels. And I was going through all of these emotional and relationships and like all of these things, right? And I was like, it's time. It is time. I have done the work, and I will always continue to do the work. And that's an important part of this, right? But I will continue and I will do it, and I'm willing. So I did. And I've never looked back. I went from charging $75 per session to being able to sell a $21,000 coaching package in complete ease and complete trust. And that changed my world. And I never looked back. And I've never not became an energetic match to my desires again. And when I'm not, what do? I do the work behind the scenes, the limiting beliefs in my system and my subconscious and my energy that do not match what I really want on a soul level, which is massive impact for powerful women who will change the world when money is in their right hands, right? And every part of my story that I shared with you today was a vital and necessary part of who I am today as an energetic business coach and wealth embodiment coach. I couldn't do it without each part of that becoming a whole, right? Like that part of me. And man, did I skim over 1,000 different things, right? But this is what wanted to come through today, is that the wounded part of me as a child who was afraid of being herself, right? And to the inner child part of me that didn't know how to be alone through my parents' divorce. And the part of me that kept denying my gifts as a young adult. And the woman who experienced rape, and the woman who kept denying her gifts and being afraid to share and own it, into the woman who nearly died and finally woke up to her power. All of those pieces of me are in me, integrated, embodied, and loved on such a level. And it was so powerful for me to be able to look back and say thank you, to look back and say this was absolutely necessary. Though as I move forward, I do ask for the lessons to not be so painful, because I start to listen. Listen the first time, the little whisper that comes in. I don't let it manifest and fester in my body to need to create this huge, tragic, trauma-filled story for me to wake up. I did vow that to myself after my near-death experience. I said, I'll listen now. I will listen to myself. I'll listen to the messages. I'll listen to the divine intervention and the source energy pulsing through me. And I dedicate my life to be that woman that will listen, that will take charge, that is bold in her declarations and is brave enough to be herself in all the ever-changing and evolving ways that have become me. Right? And to own all of the aspects of myself, the energy healing, the psychic abilities, the tenderness, the compassion, the maternal feminine, the pleasure, the desire, the woman who is really good at money and business and making her clients incredibly rich in all of the ways, right? Trust, love, compassion, knowing all of these things are what alignment really is, right? And then money is a simple byproduct of that. That is what wealth is to me. I am dedicated to being her all the time, even in motherhood when that gets messy, even in my partnership when that gets hard, even co-parenting, communication with my parents, whatever it is. I have dedicated my life to being the woman who I desire to be, the future self of myself, right? Of being her all the time, even when it's hard, and especially when it is hard. And I will never step back from that, because my mission here is so much bigger than myself, right? I came here on a soul level to make massive impact, a ripple effect into this world. And that does not come from ignoring my passions and my desire and my pleasure and those little intuitive nudges that say yes or no, right? This ability to lean into myself, learn who I am, own who I am, even the scary parts and the shadow parts and all of the parts that I manifested that might not be as pretty as multiple 6 figures in 9 months, right? Which I did create as well. I love all parts of myself, and I'm willing and dedicated to share that with the world and to be that mother, right? And holy shit, I would not have it any other way. Even when it's hard, even when it's rigorous, even when it's easy and relaxed and free-flowing, I will always come back to my body. I will always come back to my wisdom. And I will teach my clients every day how to step in and remember their power, because it's always been within you. It's only the self that creates stories of separation, right? So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that maybe this sparks something within you to never stop, right? To never stop, to keep trying, to keep doing the work, to one step in front of the other. And I will always say that life makes sense backwards. When I was in my sexual trauma, nothing made sense. When I was dying in Peru, nothing made sense. When my parents divorced, even in the little inner child part of me, nothing made sense. When I had to leave a relationship, nothing made sense. It makes sense now. And so you have to keep going, and you have to trust. You have to trust yourself in a deeper level that you are always guided and loved, right? And that is what my message will be, is that the power is within you. The magic is within you, and it's just so necessary for you to never forget that, even when things get hard, especially when things get hard. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have the most beautiful day. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook. There's that Facebook group. Man, big things are coming within my world, and I cannot wait to share them with you. Thank you so much for listening and being here. Have the most aligned day.